So hi everyone, just as an introduction, my name is Michael Dean. I'm an ERP business consultant with the Plugo Group. Joining me on stage is Will Goodborn, he's our lead solutions consultant. So just quickly, a bit about our background. What we do is go into small and medium-sized businesses and talk about their systems. So more often than not, we walk in and there's disparate databases, there's a lot of different systems, there's API integrations, and what we try to achieve is to use modern cloud technology to simplify that footprint and bring it all back into one system. So we're here today to talk about the cloud generation. What is the cloud generation? It is defined as the later parts of Generation X and all of the millennials that are entering into the workforce. They're a group of people that have always grown up with technology in their pocket. They work particularly hard to get access to information. And talking to cloud technology in general, what is that? It is any software that is delivered to you over a browser or over the internet. If it's sitting on a server in your office, it's not cloud technology. You can access it through a browser. It is cloud technology. It's fairly straightforward. So on to the cloud generation. There's a lot of opinions in the market, a lot of articles out there about who we are and what we are as millennials. They say we're lazy. They say we're entitled. We turn up late to work. We go home early. We work from home. We work from cafes. We're particularly productive. We spend 40% of our disposable income on smashed avocado on toast. But what we're trying to do today is, I guess, highlight, there are good points and there are bad points to our generation, and just provide a bit of an overview on, moving forward, how to best work with us and how to get the most out of us in the workplace.
So there's a lot of argument over who exactly fits into which of these groups. So I just wanted to define our terms so we know what we're talking about. So we've got the boomers, which is a group of people born between 46 and 64, currently aged 53 to 71. And they've often grown up with parents who lived through World War II, lived through some kind of austerity. And in a culture where, compared to today, I think job security was more important, where people are getting a job and then working their way through the ranks of that job. Up to a certain point. So there's a lot of focus on job security, I think, within people that we talk to from that generation. Gen X in comparison, that's 65 to 80, aged currently 37 to 52. In reaction to their parents, who often worked really hard, a lot of the time both parents working, have a work-life balance focus that comes as a reaction to how they've grown up, often called the latchkey generation. Millennials, that's Michael and I, 81 to 2000, so aged 17 to 37 currently, have to some extent grown up with the technology that we're talking about, at least as they've come of age, in their late teens, early 20s, as they've been entering the workforce. This is technology that's been there from the very beginning. So we call that a digital native, and we find that that generation, our generation, can get very frustrated when the technology that they're used to having in their personal life and in work is not there, and they can't get the information that they want. And then Gen Z, one step further, 2001 onwards, age 0 to 17, have literally been born into that technology, and also born into an incredible rate of technology change. So, as an example, show of hands, anybody who's heard of MySpace? Yeah, keep your hand up if you've got a MySpace account. Yeah, didn't think so. So in 2003, MySpace didn't really exist. 2005 to 2008, MySpace was the biggest social networking site in the world, 100 million active users. And then 2009, 2010, MySpace gone. And that's because of Facebook. Which I'm sure pretty much everyone in the room would have heard of. And they've got 2 billion active users. But in the scheme of things, that's happened overnight. And it's a rate of change that's unprecedented, but that Gen Z is completely used to it. We find that that tends to roll out in a focus on what the next technology is and what the technology change is doing rather than what's the current systems that we're working with.
Okay, so talking to the bottom of these slides, we put a lot of research into putting this presentation together. And I can definitely say a lot of that was around what kind of technology and devices do each of the generations defer to, I guess, when they're communicating in the workplace. Looking at Clugo, we're lucky enough to have all generations in our business. Some of our executives who would fit into the boom category, if they want to talk to me, they call me from their landline. If I miss their call, they want to call back on their landline. It's the technology they grew up with, it's what they're used to, it's what they defer to. My manager, Generation X, will email me. Very rarely do I get a phone call, very rarely can I get her to answer the phone. So I just know that communicating with her via email is going to be the quickest and easiest way for me to get information to and from. Millennials, we text each other all the time. We use our social collaboration tool that we have, it's called Yammer, internally, and that's generally how we find people in our generation in business, passing information through. And Generation Z, we've got a couple of interns that just fall into this category. These are the FaceTime kids, they're the Skype kids. If they want to call us, they'll do it on FaceTime. As we said, we're millennials, so we're generally 2 o'clock in the afternoon working from home, still in our pajamas, and it can get a bit awkward, but that's just what they naturally defer to. Now, why is this important? Currently, 2017, millennials are making up 40% of the workforce. So I think if you think about your businesses, show of hands, do you think that's roughly right in terms of that? Moving forward to 2020 will be 50%. 2025 will be 70%. 2030, when we include what we're calling the cloud generation, over the latter half of Generation X, we're going to be 95% of the workforce, and that's only 13 years away. It's a fairly short amount of time. Talking to defining, we said at the start, there's good, there's bad, there's ugly in every generation. This is just to focus in a bit on us. We'll start with the good. We are the most technologically savvy generation that has come through. It comes naturally to us, we don't need to learn this stuff, it just seems like we were born with that kind of knowledge. We're the most educated generation that has come through the workforce, obviously higher education, degrees in our generation is a lot higher. We thank the whole government for their EDS and free education program that they brought in to help fund a lot of that. I went to university for about 7 years and got out at the end of that and looked at my head's dead, it definitely wasn't free, we're still paying that. But they feel harder working than other generations, or specifically Generation X, so I don't think that's necessarily true. I can see a lot of Gen X people in the group, don't be offended. I think based on the research that we've done, we've identified that Generation X works harder between 9 and 5, Millennials work longer. Essentially, we'll be working at 7 in the morning, 10 o'clock at night, as long as we can do it on this. This is the most important thing. If we have access to it on our phone, be it our email, be it phone calls, be it our actual systems that we use, our ERPs and CRMs, as long as we can access it on this, we will work from the time we get up to when we go to bed, weekends, public holidays, because it's easy, and we're happy to do that. We have the highest return on investment for dollars spent on any of the generations. Now that might be because we're younger and we're not commanding the same levels of salaries as the more experienced generations. They say we're the most enthusiastic. I'm sure you all have the millennial that bounds into the office at 8:30 on Monday morning, comes in here, and really frustrating. I think I'm that person in our business, but everyone has one. And talking to some of the bad points, we're not great team players. We grew up, as Will said, with mum and dad working. We could have 2 of everything. We had 2 laptops, 2 bikes, 2 TVs. We never had to share. I think part of that is also that we've had technology, we've had access to information, which has made us incredibly independent. We're not needing to rely on other people or collaboration to be able to get the information that we need. We're very easily distracted. This goes off in my pocket every 5 minutes and I have to check it. I can't help myself. I do it at meetings, I do it at dinners. I know it's incredibly rude and I shouldn't. But there's studies on what it feels like to get a text message or to get people liking content you posted. It actually releases dopamine into the bloodstream. It's a drug, it's addictive. We need constant validation. We were brought up with parents who told us we were special, told us we could be everything we wanted to be. You were given medals for coming last, everyone gets participation. And essentially that's flowed through to when we come into work, and we expect that sort of validation from our managers. We want you to constantly tell us we're doing a good job and give us that sort of information. They say we're too future focused. I don't know whether that's true or not. Again, I think it's important to be future focused and to be thinking about better ways to do it and where we're going to be in the future, but I think sometimes we can get so caught up in that we forget about the now and forget about what's important sort of right now, lose focus. It's subordinate as well. I don't know whether that's true of all of us. I try to be as well behaved as I can at work, but that might be a marker of a 20-something as opposed to something that's associated with a specific generation. We're very easily upset. It's very easy to offend somebody or in the workplace. You need to be very careful what you say and how you speak to us. We'll cry. Now, we've got here the bad and the ugly, and I've separated them out for pretty specific reasons. The bad are things that you can coach us on. You can train us in these areas to get better and make them less of a problem for the business operationally. The ugly are things that you cannot control. They're just going to kind of be like a steamroller, and if you don't have a strategy in place and you don't have a plan around how you're going to manage that, it's going to hugely impact your businesses going forward. We're a transient workforce because we can be. We have Seek, we have LinkedIn, we have recruiters knocking on our door every 5 minutes trying to get us to go to a different job. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that wasn't the case. If you wanted a job, you had to get a newspaper, classifieds, go through a whole interview process. We were all very different. We couldn't do Skype interviews, so the market has become very easy for us to go out and get a job. We're not motivated by money. We live at home with our parents. We don't have cars. We drive Ubers, so our need for that kind of salary and security just isn't there yet, or whether it will be at all, given how housing prices are going. I don't think many Millennials will be buying houses anytime soon, so that may continue to be the case. We're also very outspoken because we have the platforms to be able to be outspoken. We have Facebook, we have LinkedIn, everything, but absolutely everything that we post and fighting very important, and everyone should be listening. So we've just come to it with that attitude. So what do we want? Which is the crux of today's story. It's all about technology and how that technology can support us. It's three main things. It's flexibility, it's automation, and it's live information in our system. So talking to flexibility, we need to be able to adapt our technology to suit our needs. And Will's going to talk about this a little bit more. Modern cloud technology has the ability to be completely adaptable and expandable. We're no longer relying on on-premise applications that are hard-coded, and any changes we need to be made have to happen at that code level. It's all just apps. It's sitting in an app store. You download it. If you have any problem, it's pretty easy to solve. Automation, we're not a generation that does mundane tasks because we've never had to. We've always had software and we've always had these solutions to do the boring things for us that we didn't want to do. And live information, we've always had Google in our pocket. We've never had to research. We've never had to use Britannica. Even as young as I can think, I'm probably the earlier stages of Millennials. In Carter 95 was my first research method, so I didn't even need to look at Britannica to get information. So honing in on the flexibility topic, access to our systems anywhere, any device. The right cloud technology will mean that I can do everything that I can do on my laptop, on my phone, or on my tablet, and I can do that whether I'm sitting in an office, sitting in a cafe, or sitting at home in my pajamas, essentially. We need the ability to customise our work environments, so things like dashboards and portals. We want to be able to decide for ourselves what information is important to us, so we can get rid of all the clutter and just focus on what we're doing, because that's what we have in all our other areas of technology and devices. We want the opportunity to be entrepreneurial, and I've probably made this word up for the sake of this presentation, but they say that we're the most entrepreneurial generation because we've never had to be afraid of change or risk, and that's probably true. Realistically, not everybody can go and start doing business, so we're bringing these skills and we're bringing these sort of attitudes about life to our employers, And we want the opportunity to be creative, and we want to try things, and they might work and they might not, but we get a lot of value and a lot of, it's important for us in our day-to-day jobs to be able to do that. It's how we feel like we're impacting the organisation. And the ability to add functionality, as I've said it before, it's this app-style, downloadable content that's where technology has moved. So I'd encourage you to ask yourself, are you able to easily adapt to what systems you're using, or are you stuck in that legacy sort of way of managing systems where everything has to be hard-coded, expensive professional services, etc., because it's just not necessary anymore.
Something that's weird is I don't have a personal computer. I don't own any DVDs. I don't own any Blu-rays. I don't own any CDs anymore. I haven't read a book on paper in at least a few years. But I'm a technology professional. I like music, listen to it all the time. I watch movies all the time. I read constantly. And none of those things would be possible without a combination of cloud and streaming technologies like Spotify and Netflix and NetSuite that we sort of take for granted now. The other thing that I would say about that is on my phone I have a sort of dashboard that's got my calendar and my weather for the day and when I need to leave for the train and what's going on in the industry and the news that I care about. And I've put that together myself. It's not like somebody's dictated to me what I care about and what I need to see. I've been able to patch that together from different apps and widgets and bits, and it's something that I'm used to doing in work software as well. It's something that I'm able to go in the morning and move bits around and play and create my own dashboard and my own way of interpreting information. And I think very quickly after that's become available, it's become expected. And increasingly, I think you'll find that that younger people will choose where they want to work and not work where they can't achieve those things.
On to automation. I touched on it briefly. We've got a generation that will buy automated devices. We've never had to do it. As I said, we've always had software or an app to do these things for us. Having information delivered is really important. We don't read newspapers. We subscribe to threads or we subscribe to channels or topics that interest us, and it just comes to our inbox or it comes to a dashboard. We're not used to that traditional sorting through information to get to something that actually interests you. Mass communication, everything we do is on social media. I think everybody in the room would agree that they're quite disturbed by what some millennials are having to put on their social media profiles out for the general public, but we don't have that privacy, level of privacy that other generations have had. We're pretty happy to put all of that on social media, and it's partly because it's easy. We can just do something once and then everybody sees it. Moving on to everything being linked, fridges are smart these days, phones are smart, dishwashers are smart, everything. I'm not going to get into an Internet of Things discussion. I think that terminology has been flogged to death, but we're used to everything being connected. In the last 5 years, we've seen, we've gone from probably 10 years, we've gone from CDs to DVDs to USBs very quickly. Does anyone still use USBs, or is it all done through cloud technology? We sync it up to the cloud. If I upload it on my computer, I can access it on my phone. It's just the level of where things are at, and we expect that at home and in our work life.
So I would imagine that probably everyone in the room has flown on a plane pretty recently. I personally fly with Virgin, and when I go online and I book a flight, that's all I have to do. The rest is essentially done for me. I get a notification on my phone that pops up a day before I fly that says, would you like to check in? Say yes and press a button. It does that for me. I go to the airport and I wave my phone at a terminal. That's the whole process. And only a few years ago, that process would have involved phone calls and would have involved standing in line and would have involved hours out of multiple people's days potentially. So that's been a very recent thing, but it's already something that I wouldn't fly with anybody's other version, because I know that that's a process that I can follow, and I don't have to do any of that stuff. It's similar in work software. So, for example, when we're doing expenses, I travel a lot, so a lot of expenses in my wallet. I pour them out on the table, I take a photo on my phone, and we have OCR, optical character recognition software, that scans it all, puts in the data into a system, categorizes it, submits it for me, pops up on someone else's screen, they press a button to approve it, pops up on someone else's screen, they press a button to pay it. And again, multiple hours out of multiple people's weeks in a business process that's one of potentially hundreds or thousands within that business. So it's not difficult to imagine how much time it is over a whole business over time.
So the third and final point, real-time information, and I think if you take anything away from our discussion today, it really needs to be this point. Having access to real-time information is not something that was ever possible in the past, because we had so many different systems, we had so many different databases, and trying to get information from A to Z was time-consuming, it was complex, it was difficult, and it often meant that it was weeks before we actually had accurate figures to be making decisions on. Cloud technology is live. When information gets put into that system, it comes out in a dashboard in the same second. And it's really, really important, especially for people at your level in the organisation, making decisions based on numbers, based on facts and transactions, and that all needs to be rolled up. You rely on accurate information to be able to do your jobs well and make good decisions. If you're relying on information that's 4 to 6 weeks old, or you're aggregating things in databases, you're wasting a lot of time, you're wasting a lot of staff resources for something that should just happen. The technology is there now to just happen automatically. The second thing is visual measurements of performance and KPIs, especially for the Millennials, as we touched on. We like to know that we're doing a good job, we want to know how we're going against our quota, we want constant pats on the head for that sort of thing. Giving us the tools that continually provide us feedback to say how we're going is a motivational factor. So if you want to get more productivity and better work out of the Millennials, give them the tools to be able to measure themselves. Google-style information, we've always had it, it's on our phones. If we don't have a really easy way to type a search criteria into a software and have the information come back to us, we're probably not going to go through layers and layers of menus and tabs to try and get access to the information we want. It needs to be as easy as possible so we can be as productive as possible and get out the door by 3 o'clock so we can go to the pub. Deeper insights into data. Again, everybody's collecting so much data these days, between what we're transacting, different sensor technologies, everyone just has massive data in a lot of different places. That data is completely useless unless you can report on it in one place, unless you can report across the full breadth of that data in a centralized tool. How much value is that data really giving you? So I just ask again, if you think about your current systems, is there an opportunity for you to simplify that database, have it sitting in one system, and what kind of benefits could you receive from a reporting point of view if you were able to do that?
So my phone has all these sensors in it that, without me collecting any information and entering information into it, it's able to tell me a whole bunch of stuff. So I've got a health app here somewhere that counts how many steps I've taken today and this week and this month, and probably not enough, and how many calories I've taken in, which is probably too many, and how much sleep I'm getting, which is probably, again, not enough. But I'm able to drill into that and play with it. I've got a friend who's really obsessed with this stuff. He was recently going through his sleep data and worked out that for some reason when he goes to Oglow and gets a chicken burger, he sleeps way better than I. Which was really confusing for a while until he realised that he goes to Oglow and gets a chicken burger after he goes to the pub. But again, in a work context, it's something that I'm used to in terms of being able to not just collect information and move it around and drill down into it, but to have tools to actually go and make my own conclusions about things, to draw new connections within that data rather than having a fixed way of looking at it. And allows someone to be proactive rather than reactive about the way that they look at that information. So there may be KPIs that we want to see, but we want to have tools as well to be able to go and determine what's value that we're actually not seeing out of what we've decided to measure here. And it's only possible because of all the data that's being collected and if you've got tools to mine it. If any of that sounds obvious, think about whether this is actually something that you can do in your business. And if it's not, whether there is actually strategy in the business to do that. Because a lot of people not about it, but then it's not actually something that they can achieve. So it's worth thinking about.
So, getting to the summary point, the millennial as a colleague, what's the best way to work with us? It's be open and collaborative and give us access to the information we need to do our jobs well. Data hoarding, and that's an older style of management of data, is not helping us. We want to have access to everything. We don't want to do requests for information where we want to go down that path of getting additional information. It needs to be easily accessible. Give us the freedom to work however we want, wherever we want, and we'll work harder. As I've said, we're not 9 to 5ers. We'll work as long as we're awake, as long as you make it really easy for us to do so. Give us the opportunity to work smarter. We're entrepreneurial. We want to invent new ways to do things, and we need the tools and technology to be able to not only do it, but do it rapidly and build those things so we can go through that process of trial and error. Sometimes we'll win, sometimes we'll fail, and that's just the nature of where technology is at the moment. We just need to make sure that you have an agile platform to be able to do that experimentation. And simplify our user experience. Again, the technology that we use every day doesn't have that much research and development put into user experience. We don't apply clunky, we don't apply difficulty in applications. If we need, as I said, if we need to trawl through menus to get information, or if it takes us 2 hours to build a report, we know there's an easier way to do it. We're just going to get frustrated. The layer of the customer, it's pretty much the same thing in reverse. You need to talk to us where we're listening. Now, I don't know what everybody does in here. I imagine there's quite a wide range of industries, but at the end of the day, everybody's selling something. So you need to be where we're listening. I've not seen a TV ad in probably 2.5, 3 years. I don't even think the aerial on my TV is plugged in anymore, and that's because I have Netflix and I have Stan, and I can choose the content that I want to watch whenever I want to watch it. So if you're advertising on TV and I'm your target demographic, you're not reaching me. That being said, I probably see 500 ads on my mobile phone in a day. So anyone who's strategy for marketing on mobile, your message is reaching me, I'm probably buying a product. And that needs it to be in our pocket. Not everything needs to be on a browser, not everything needs to be on the internet. More often not, we're getting this information and we're receiving these ads on a mobile device. So it's really important that we optimize for that. Make your information public. When I want to buy something, the first thing I do is go onto Google and I do as much research about it as I can. And if your information is not up and freely available and giving me everything I need, I'm going to move on to a competitor that has given me that information and purchase their product. We need to simplify our buying experience. I'm not going to go into a whole expose on cart management and things like that, but the majority of sales that almost get made online that don't just comes down to user experience in that final buying process, and that translates right back to everything else we've been talking about. It needs to be really easy for us, or we just won't do it. Now we are at the CFO Symposium, so we should probably talk about some costs and things like that. There will be increases in costs and decreases in costs as the cloud generation become more and more prevalent in your organisations. Investment in cloud systems, obviously one thing. That's a good thing about the cloud model, which is that it tends to be a hell of a lot cheaper to get into than traditional legacy softwares. They're not asking millions of dollars up front. It's generally a smaller, ongoing monthly fee with everything involved in it. It also moves the expenditure from CapEx to OpEx, but we won't get into that conversation today. Internet connectivity, obviously cloud technology, fully relying on the internet. I read an article on the weekend that the NBN is due to be finished in 2088. Really good when that happens. Career education and training. We've touched on it briefly, but we want to be trained, we want to learn, we want to be adding more value to business, and it would be good to have employers who want to invest that money in us as well. When we're talking about loyalty to companies, it's not about money anymore. We want to be impactful and we want to be valued, and a big part of that is being educated and trained for continual development. There's no doubt staff acquisition and retention costs are going to increase. We are a transient workforce. There's not a lot you can do to avoid it other than do your best to keep everybody happy in the business. But we're expecting huge increases in recruitment, training and turnover costs in business on the basis of this. So everything you can do to keep the staff that you have is going to save you a lot of money. And probably just as a perk, smashed avocado on toast budget, maybe smashed avocado on toast Thursday or something like that. Now talking to savings, cost of systems training almost goes away. As we said, we don't need it. The technology that's out today is simple, it's not difficult to use, it doesn't require specific training, so that will essentially go away. Cost of data interpretation and reporting, and the businesses that we go into when we actually do an evaluation of their IT spend, I'm always flabbergasted about how much money they're spending on putting together pretty simple reports, because the technology that they have requires expert coders and highly skilled IT professionals just to be able to produce an A4 report. Modern cloud technology gives you what you see is what you get, tools to be able to do that, and it empowers the end user to be able to create it themselves. So we're not relying on third parties to do that for us anymore. Staff salaries and benefits are set to go down. We're not money driven, and we don't have the kind of financial pressures that previous generations have had, and we're probably not going to. Also on the benefits side, what we like is it's less about money and it's more about experience and that sort of thing. So cost of IT, infrastructure and hardware completely goes away. If it's true technology, you can give your staff a $300 Chromebook and they'll be able to run your systems on that just as well as if you'd given them a $3,000 laptop. It just should not matter. And then obviously OPEX overheads. There's a lot of studies out there now saying that the footprint of the average office is decreasing and they're expected to be reduced by 40% by 2030 because the workforces are being decentralised. It's making more sense to let people work from home, not only from their value and what they get out of it as an employee, but it reduces costs for businesses as well. So as we see that decentralisation happen more and more, obviously all the expenditure that goes to maintaining offices and facilities is going to go away.